Yeah, we are here in the quad on the University of Washington campus, and you can see over my shoulder that it appears that some of these pro-Palestinian protesters are now taking down their tents. There had been a lot of concern here on campus after what we have seen with protests across the country.
You're committing genocide!
The quad, a spot known for cherry blossoms,
Free Palestine!
now the seed for something else.
Demanding from the universities divestment and cutting ties with companies that fund and supply the occupation in Palestine.
Matthias Shabad helped to organize this sit-in on university grounds, flaunting no camping rules on the campus.
I'm disheartened.
A sight that irked Olivia Feldman.
They don't understand what a genocide is. I understand firsthand. I have great-grandparents who survived the Holocaust, and they took refuge in Israel.
She wears her opinion.
And it means the people of Israel will live on.
And believes the university should act to end the demonstration.
And I'm scared. I'm scared for all of my other Jewish peers and Israeli peers on campus.
But the UW is taking a cautious approach for now, likely seeking to avoid a conflict like protests on other campuses. Just a couple hundred yards away in Red Square, other sanctioned pop-up tents are promoting everything from Polynesian culture and Greek life to abortion rights, and similarly, not blocking any foot traffic.
Demand divestment from Israel as well as cutting ties with Boeing.
Which may be why, at least here, despite the calls to end it and the war overseas,
I'm hoping for peace.
For now, the seeds of one protest will be allowed to grow. Portland State University did put a pause on its relationship with Boeing after protests on campus there. A UW spokesperson will only say at this point that it is monitoring the situation and will react here as appropriate. That's the story for now. Live in the middle of the quad on the University of Washington campus, I'm Chris Daniels, KOMO News.
We're going to start on this Tuesday with that chaos on college campuses across the country.
The biggest example this morning, what's going on at Columbia University in New York City. Protesters marched across campus early this morning and occupied a building. This comes after the university had begun suspending students who refused to leave a pro-Palestinian encampment. The protesters started marching around the Manhattan campus to chants of Free Palestine. Shortly after that, some had seized Hamilton Hall. Columbia, in a statement, advising non-essential workers and other members of the university community to avoid going to campus. Meanwhile, a small group of pro-Palestinian protesters remain on UW's campus. They've set up in the quad. They're calling on the school to cut ties with Boeing and other companies that have ties to Israel. Monday's demonstration at UW was peaceful, and although UW has no camping signs on the property, they say they will monitor the situation. But at least one person we talked to believes the university should act to end the demonstration.
Scared. I'm scared for all of my other Jewish peers and Israeli peers on campus that are afraid to come to their classes and have to take midterms in these classes and hear chants for their death, essentially, calling for globalizing the Intifada and from the river to the sea. These aren't calls to free Palestine and liberate Palestinians peacefully. These are death chants.
Social media reaction weighs heavily against the protesters. Ty posting, "If I do it, it's considered to be hate speech. If they do it, it's considered to be free speech and a protest. Go figure."
And Kenneth says this: they aren't protesters, they are domestic terrorist rioters. They should be treated as such. Arrest and jail with zero bail, no different than the J6 rioters, obviously referring to the rioters that stormed the U.S. Capitol back on January 6th in 2021. So what we're dealing with here is obviously a very complicated issue. You have a war that has dragged on for months now. You know, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of lives have already been lost. Many of them have been civilians. There's the concerns over bombings and people really wanting to see those come to an end and the war come to an end. And then you have all these protests that have popped up around the country in recent days and weeks from a lot of young people saying, we want to see this end. We want to see you divest from companies that do business with Israel, for example, or have a vested interest in Israel. And we've seen some local companies that have been impacted by that. We know that There's been some action taken at Portland State University down in Portland with its apparent connections to Boeing. So there's a lot of moving parts here. And as we saw with that Columbia University video, those protests are kind of taking a step further with going inside one of those buildings there on campus.
Tensions are high, and it's nice to see the protests, at least here at home at UW, taking place peacefully. You know, they are camping in places where maybe they're not supposed to. As long as they're not hurting anybody or really causing a disruption like those protesters did at SeaTac Airport, I think it's okay, the peaceful assembly. But yeah, these people want their voices heard, and this is happening all over the country. Over 60 colleges and universities saw protests just yesterday at the University of Florida. 9 people were arrested. So I'm thankful that here at home, things are still pretty calm on those campuses, but I wouldn't be shocked if they tend to just keep on rising, you know, those tensions at least in the next coming days, or as long as the conflict's happening over there in the Middle East.
Yeah, and you know that, you know, kind of the mindset is to take drastic action in some cases, like with that example that you talked about at SeaTac Airport, where that really impacted people trying to get to the airport, some of them missing their flights. I missed that by a day during a recent trip to Spain, and saw that, you know, as I was in the air and landed over in London. But I was thinking, if I would have been in that situation and missed a flight because of a protest, I would have been really irritated by that. So lots of stuff going on across the country.